Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creative Bliss in Life and Biz podcast. And I am having a fangirl moment here big time because I have Kimberly Wilson on the show today, someone I've been following, I feel like forever now, pretty much at the beginning of my own Creative Bliss in Biz journey. And Kimberly is the author, if you can believe it, of 6 books, and she's a psychotherapist in private practice and designer of the locally sewn, eco-friendly Tranquilla tea clothing line. And she also serves as the president of Pigs and Pugs Project with a mission to make the lives of pigs and pugs happier. And pigs and pugs are 2 separate creatures, or not just some exotic breed of cat or something. Pigs and pugs, the pigs and pugs. You can find her sipping fragrant green tea in pink ballet slippers, which I got married in, by the way. Yeah, that was my thing. Practicing dégagés. Is that how you say it? Dégagés and demi-pliés, or leading retreats around the world. And she has a master's degree in women's studies and social work. And her work has been featured, this is awesome, U.S. News and World Report, Washingtonian, Fast Company, and Bella Grace. She lives in Washington, D.C. with a rescue kitty, 3 rescue pugs, and 1 human. Indulge in tranquilosophy via her blog and podcast, Tranquility du jour. Even just saying that out loud, I get all like misty-eyed. And online courses. Oh, welcome to the show. I'm going to take off my glasses now and say welcome. I just can't believe I get to say these words out loud. As I was saying to her, pre-record button hitting, that just hearing the word tranquility du jour, I just listening a lot to your podcast when we were out homesteading, and it just made me feel so good because at the time I really felt that we were living our life's passions, and that's what you encourage on your show, and you are just the prime specimen of how you do it. So I will just hand the virtual mic over to you, and if you can tell us a little bit more of what is your own creative bliss these days.
Sure. Well, my own creative bliss, I would say, is it's funny. I wrote a blog post recently about this idea of living rosé, right? Because I've got this motto of wear black, live pink. And then I added a little accent to it with this idea of rosé, right? So how do we kind of live this way where, we feel like there's a little panache, there's a little flair, there's a little fun, right? And so that, I think, is my creative bliss at the moment, of thinking about how can I most bring forth kind of what's within me, whether or not it's like a blog post, or I'm coming up with this really kind of fun, swanky event at this vegan spot here in DC in June. And that, to me, like, that's my creative bliss right now. I'm really excited about pulling that together. I just started working with a therapy mentor. And what that is, once you get your license and you do all your hours and then you sit in private practice, you're kind of on your own. And so just today, actually, I started working with a new mentor. And I love that because I'm able to really absorb, something she's been doing for years and I'm newer to, and bask in. I'm like, I love learning, love it. And to me, that's really a lot of creative bliss too, right? It's like soaking in as much as possible. So I was like just taking notes, and, that again, creative bliss, lifelong learning, creating, that program that I mentioned that's going to happen here in June in DC. My latest book. This is, I would say, creative bliss.
Oh, there's the cover. I'm so going to get that, you guys. Year 20.
It's really fun. It's like a planner, right? But it's also got a lot of great essays on everything from dreams to love to creativity. So, that I would say is my creative bliss. It's like, how can I keep learning, keep growing, keep living rosé, this idea of like really, showing up as like, not even my best self. I feel like that sounds so cliche, but a self that's like continually pushing her edges, if that makes sense.
Yes, I love it. My daughter is home from school right now because she got a bug. She's recovering. She just got some crazy flu on Friday. She just left her bedroom yesterday. So I was like, what movie from my youth can I introduce her to? And so she's 14. I'm like, I think that was around the time I watched Pretty in Pink with Molly Ringwald. And so it might have been too soon. She's like, there was no point in that. I'm like, what? Like, Ducky, but Ducky. And I was telling her, I'm like, that actress, Molly Ringwald, I'm a big fan of hers because she's Molly Ringwald and her style, but also because apparently she quit acting to move to Paris because she really wanted to learn French. And she lived there for decades. Like, I think I might be making things up in my head. I'm pretty sure. So I just really, for some reason, I think that's what I was so initially attracted to. There's something about that Paris lifestyle, for me, symbolizes once in a lifetime. Like, you only live once. And it just, I bought all the Paris books. There's books on, funny enough, parenting, how to raise
Bringing
French
up
kids.
Bebe.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Bebe, exactly. Yeah. And I just really embrace some of those principles of, like not entertaining them the kids at the table. This isn't a fast food restaurant, just having that some form of structure. There's so many aspects to it.
Yeah.
So there's something that in it in terms of that passionate joie de vivre, for the lack of a better word, and just shamelessly just allowing that enthusiasm for life to come through. So I really admire that about you. So I am just curious, writing 6 books, that's no small feat. And plus you have a whole bunch, your fingers in some awesome fun pots there, including your clothing line, which I'm really intrigued by. I'm all about that core black wardrobe. I'm just starting to wear more black again because the kids go to Waldorf school. Apparently you're not allowed to have too much black around them, but I just don't want that. Yeah, it's kind of. So how are you able to do that? Like, how are you able to blend in that certain creative bliss it takes to essentially birth a book out into the world while also running your different businesses?
Yeah, it's interesting. So my first book, right, was '06. So where are we? We're 19. So that was 13 years ago, right? And so math.
I know.
I'm like, but what's been really interesting is over the past, I think my past 4 books have all been things that I've put out into the world via e-courses. Like Year of Tranquility, it was a year-long course I did last year and I released monthly. And so my 3rd book, Tranquilology, is very similar. It's something I released monthly and then pulled together into a book format. So what's been fun is like it's really a repurposing and then editing and adding some more fun things to it and then packaging it and putting out into the world. And so it's like I incorporate it that way, and the fact that I set aside dedicated time, of course, to create that material, put it out, and then I spent the whole holiday season really editing and pulling it together with my graphic designer. And then it launched mid-January, right? So just in time for kind of the beginning of the year and thinking about what we want to manifest and bring forth. And again, it was something that I had spent, a lot of time creating in 2018. And so, for me, since I've got the design hat, like we just released our spring collection, it just launched. And, it's like, and then I've got my therapy hat, right? So I'm pretty much with clients from say 2 to 8:30, Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday. And so it's like, I just take on and off these hats, but I find in the morning that's whenever I do my creative stuff. So that's like when I'm writing, right? Or that's whenever I'm dreaming up this event I'm going to do in June, or working with my seamstress and talking about like, let's take this design from 2016, tweak it, add a flare sleeve and call it X, Yeah. And so I just like switch on and off hats, probably like you do, right? With parenting and partnership, and then, working on this business. And so that's really, I would say, kind of how I've been able to particularly bring these past 4 books to life. It's like something that I've put out into the universe and then pulled together and repurposed and repackaged. It's kind of like people who write like a thesis for grad school. It's like, use that thing, pull it together, share it with the world.
Exactly. That's great advice. No need to start from scratch again. It's just like my friend had a blog, and I think that was actually the title of her blog, is like make do, something about make do. It's like work with what you got already, especially it's already been coming through some outer universe portal. It's like, might as well just like, yeah, that's a great tip for sure.
Well, and think about,
sorry,
Kathy, like people like you, who have been blogging for years. What I did in 2014 is I pulled together a compilation of blog posts from the past 10 years. And then I broke them into different categories like creativity and style and, travel, whatever. So, thinking about, there's so many people probably who are watching or listening to this who blog and thinking about how could I pull that together? You probably have enough material for a book.
Well, that's very sweet. That's probably true, but I think that seed was planted by someone a long time ago, and I looked at my archives using those eyes, and I was just like, I don't know, man, this is kind of weird. It's like, what was I on when I wrote this? But thank you. But maybe just take some like little extra lipstick on that post. How to tell your cows in heat. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. No, that is true. Actually, I did. I went on one of my Facebook groups I'm a part of, and I searched book coach because every year, I don't know if it's a moon phase, something about writing a book is really just every year. I think it's one of my clients. They say, "Oh, I love your writing," because I have written a manual for my coaching school that I get a lot of compliments on, and I think that's part of the reason I was going to riff off of that and just kind of expand upon it a little bit, maybe turn to book. We'll see. But I had a really fun interview with a book coach, and he inspired me. He already gave me my first creative assignment just to get the brainstorm ball rolling. But yeah, I just been busy, like I told you, just on costume committee and sick kid standby.
Life, totally.
So I think you were one of the first mentors I actually hired, and I have worked with a lot of mentors since. So this must have been way back. Let's do the math together. 2008. I'm not sure. My son was born in 2008, but it definitely wasn't much later than that, perhaps even sooner. And it was just so lovely. I can still, I don't know, there's something, I have terrible memory, but something about, I think that's why I was telling you when I listened to your podcast, I could see exactly where I was walking, where a little tidbit came through. I remember sitting in Craig's office at the time. He built his own little solar powered office just across the garden from the house, and I took the call. That's where I took my special calls, and that was a very exciting call for me. And I'm just wondering, how does offering mentoring fit into your current business model, and how does it kind of add to your essentially your Tranquility du jour umbrella?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because there's mentoring and therapy now. So since all of that, I went back to grad school and got the license, all of that. So what I just found, Kathy, is over the years, particularly since I started business in 1999 with my yoga studio, that I would have a lot of people sending those emails about wanting to pick my brain, right?
Yes.
Which are like the worst, because I'm introverted, HSP. It's like I don't ever really want to go out and have tea with somebody I don't know. I just don't. Like, it's, and it's nothing personal. It's just like, I'd rather be at home with my dogs or, something along those lines. So I was like, I'm getting so many requests for this. I was like, let me set up some sort of a program, right, where it just makes it a little more official. And so over the years, I've had so many wonderful people that are seeking some sort of a shift. It's usually career related and it's usually business related. And so that's kind of how it varies from, say, the therapy, because people come to me with regard to therapy more for like anxiety, OCD, relationship issues, right? And mentoring is much more kind of business driven. And so, yeah, even like today I have 2 mentoring sessions and, a few therapy sessions. And so it's like I go back and forth with the hats, but I mainly focus on therapy now. Probably in general, I would say I maybe do 5 or 6 mentoring a month, whereas, therapy is kind of the majority of my day.
Okay.
And, I have to say I love it because it just exercises that muscle. And I love being able to share, all the interesting things I've learned over the past, 20 years,
Absolutely. And you got good ideas. I've been told I'm a bit of an idea machine myself, but I can tell though, I just love perusing your website and just seeing all the different branches. It's just like going on a little journey. You almost get taken away, to your clothing line, and then you'll see all your different retreats. You have a pretty extensive streams of income coming in towards you. So how do you manage that? Do you just take it like season per season, and like you were saying, like, is it just like your creative rhythm, or how are you able to manage all those different income streams?
Yeah, well, so the main piece that I do that is income driven is the therapy, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of my main, like, I would say that's my main career, because I sold my yoga studios 2 years ago.
Nice.
So I had done that for 18 years, built them. And it was time for me to kind of move on and turn it over to someone who could dedicate more time and energy to it. And at that point, I was moving into more of my private practice and what have you. So that's the majority. I mean, I would say that, the mentoring, the retreats, the online courses, I would say that's more passion, creative driven. Like I don't know that I would be able to support myself at all on that.
Yes.
But, I don't make it a full-time thing either, one probably could if they did. I know a lot of people do that, right? Full-time coaches, what have you. But my career is more kind of focused on the therapy. And even with the books, like I always joke to people, I'm like, yeah, you maybe make 5 cents an hour on writing a book.
Exactly,
it's
for sure.
It's by no means a moneymaker, but it's more of a, it just feels good to have it out into the world and to have people resonating with it and learning from it. And so I would say that really is what drives me more, is like the passion behind it. But yeah, so I do have these kind of like random income streams. Like I even have a perfume I created in Paris, so I've got a little line on my P&L perfume.
Really?
Random, Yeah.
What did you call
really
your?
Good.
Is it? Does that pugs or pigs in the name of the perfume?
No, unfortunately, it's called Tranquilité. I like to
Of course
in
it
French.
is. Oh, très bon. That is lovely. And actually, I keep telling you, but it's true. It's Paris. Well,
Paris.
yeah, like Craig and I've been to Paris when we were dating. He's like, "Where's one place in the world you want to go?" And I'm like, "Paris."
Yes.
And then we went on a walk when we were dating, and he's like, "We should go to Paris in the fall." And this is old Kathy, corporate Kathy. And I'm like, I can't possibly. I already took in my allotted 4 weeks holiday this year, and it's a busy season in the office. And then I got back to the office, and I was like, oh, he wants to propose to me. No, I was thinking math. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's our 1 year anniversary of dating. And so we went, and that was his plan. But we were just arguing so much in Paris. I think because we landed and all the museum workers went on strike, and that was, and then they were just like crabby. And then I totally forgot I wanted him to propose. But anyways, so I want to go back when I'm not grumpy.
Right. Yes.
And I told my daughter, I want to do to her what Gwyneth Paltrow's father did for her, because he told her, I want your first time in Paris to be with the man who's going to love you for the rest of your life. And but then Craig's like, but I'm her dad, and that doesn't make any sense. But I'm like, that's okay.
He will love her.
Yes, that's true. And I'll just take her to Paris.
Yeah.
I know you have a Costa Rica retreat coming up, but do you have a Paris one coming up in the future?
Yeah, so my big one this summer is Tuscany. So I'm
Oh,
going to
that's
Tuscany.
right. That I would not
Yoga.
cry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yoga,
Oh,
creativity, and mindfulness at this private villa, kind
oh
of with
my
these
God.
stunning views on a hilltop. And the cool thing is for the day trip, we're going to Cinque Terre, which is this like stunning, stunning seaside coastal town.
Oh,
But Paris will be in 2020. Yeah, I'll be back probably June of 2020.
all
So
right. I'm
look
marking
for
that
that. Yeah,
down.
it's
I'll
an
bring my daughter with me.
amazing. Oh, it's such an amazing adventure. And you know what's great, Kathy, is like last year I went in November to Paris because I was just watching on Google Flights, and typically a flight, say from DC, is about $1,500. Well, I found one for $450 direct. And I'm like,
What?
I have no reason to go to Paris, but
Yeah.
I just found a ticket for $450, so I'm going to
It
Paris,
would be almost rude not to.
It would be rude
Yeah.
not to. So, so it's funny. It's like you can just kind of, because sometimes it sounds like, oh, that's so decadent. But,
Yeah.
really, you can do a
Okay.
lot of the stuff on a budget. Yeah.
Yeah. My girlfriend gave me a pep talk around that too, because like I told you, my daughter is finishing up at the Waldorf school here, and her daughter finished last year, and she took her to Paris to celebrate. And I'm like,
Uh,
that's my first thought. I'm like, that sounds so decadent. But she gave me the pep
yes.
talk. If you're smart about it, you could stay at some and I've been looking at Airbnbs, and there's
They're
some like
amazing.
reasonable, yes. So I'm
Oh,
just
so
like, maybe
nice.
it's not too wild and crazy.
Right.
Um, so I want to talk before we wrap it up a little bit about the premise of your book, because honestly, just the name Tranquility, I just love how, again, I see an umbrella, and just hearing it, obviously, it brings much tranquility to me. But how's this book different from the one that I have here on my bookshelf? I can't remember the one that, yeah, you have another one that's
Mhm.
similar.
Yeah. Do you have Tranquilology maybe, or do you
Yes.
remember? Oh,
Yep,
you do?
Tranquil, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So Tranquilology came out monthly, similar to this, but it had 8 themes every month.
Yes. Okay.
So every month there was like a mindfulness piece, a style piece, a creativity, all in January. And so this one was just focused on a big essay that went out at the beginning of the month. And then we would have this like live call. And then there were practices that went out every week that aligned with it. So
Mm.
just an example would be like one of the months was writing. And so one of the exercises was send snail mail. And so I paired people up who were in the program to like
Aw,
send snail mail.
cute.
I know. And some people are still keeping in touch, which is really sweet. Another piece was to write a micro memoir, which is basically something that's like 500 words, where you think about like a kind of like a transformative event that's happened in your life. And then you write 500 words about it. So those are just some examples. And then, of course, journaling fell under
Yeah.
writing and some journaling prompts. So the idea was to take one topic per month and then have 4 to 5 practices, depending on how many weeks were in the month, that would relate to it. So you wouldn't just get, oh, here's a lot of information on yoga. It would be like, okay, here it is. And then here's what we're going to practice. So that's how it's broken out.
Oh, nice. So the book is broken up, and do you still have the e-course available too, or has that kind of been put, yeah, that's been
It's
put
been all put
shelf.
here.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So an example, it's like you've got, of course, the essay, and then from there you've got all the weekly practices.
Yeah.
So an example, like there's style and beauty, wellness, yoga, self-care, mindfulness, entrepreneurship. See, that
Yay.
was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people are 9-to-5ers, or they could be stay-at-home moms, and they're like, I'm not an entrepreneur. And
Yes.
I'm like, we are all entrepreneurs of our
I
own
agree.
life, right?
Ooh, that's a
And
quotable for
so,
sure.
and to
I'm
think
gonna
about
write
what's your
that.
brand, like
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, there's this great quote that it's like, your brand is what people think of you or say about you when you're not around. And I just love that.
Ooh.
So
I
what
love it
is your
too.
brand? What do you
Ah,
want your brand to be?
I'm writing that down. That is really nice. We're all entrepreneur of our own life. Nice, very cool. And is there pictures of the pink palace in there?
There are, I mean,
Oh,
there's
good.
actually
I
even
love
on
your
the
place.
cover. And
Oh,
it's funny.
honey.
I
It's
let
so,
people vote on the cover, what they wanted, and this is what we
aw.
chose. And yeah, it's a pink palace. And listeners, what that means is I live in 600 square feet, a tiny little place with 4 rescue animals, 1 cat. And yeah, and so we call it the pink palace, like ironically, clearly. Tiny, it's wee.
One of my best friends, she lives in a tiny space like that too, about that size, I bet, with
Yeah.
2 small kids and a partner. Um, she has her kids are allergic to cats, so they got a hypoallergenic cat.
Yeah.
It's got like really curly hair, kind of like
Huh.
really and it looks like it's had a perm. And the breed is actually called La Perm. I couldn't believe it. So I'm
Huh.
like, are you joking? No, it's called La Perm. Anyways, and she just has a knack for making every house she lived in. It was just so cozy and beautiful. And they spent forever in this little teeny tiny house. And it was one of my favorite places to visit. It just felt so
Oh.
warm and welcoming and cozy. They did have a beautiful big backyard. So in the summer, the kids, you know, because
Mhm.
our kids are the same age, would go off and play. But some people just have that knack to do some magic where it doesn't feel, and I think it comes across very it comes across quite clearly in, I haven't seen your book yet, but in the pictures I've seen of the pink palace, like
Yeah.
you seem to have that flair even in the background there. You're nicely organized. I'm like looking at every nook and cranny. I'm snooping.
Well, and do you see up above?
I
Because
was
it's like
looking.
you run out of space, right?
I
So I
thought
was
that was
like,
very creative. Are those
need more
IKEA shelves?
bookshelves. Yeah, they're IKEA shelves. And actually, I
Ah,
think they're ones that you would turn vertically and use as a
smart.
bookshelf. But then I was like, Tim, let's put them up. So we have them here and then in the bedroom. And it's great because,
Just brilliant. This wasted
yeah,
space. And it looks
totally.
nice. It looks
Thank
clever.
you.
So is Tim a handyman?
Ish.
Ish? That's
Yeah,
cool. That's cool.
yeah.
Craig, not so much.
It's our secret.
Yeah, it's just like we got the toilet roll paper.
Yeah.
It's like starting to do this. So
Uh-huh.
you put the toilet, it rolls off into the waste bin. I'm like, that's gotta be fixed. He's like, try to fix it. You fix it. I'm like, okay. We need to find a business called hire. I think there is one here called hire a husband or hire a handy
Totally.
man, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Yeah. He is that is handy. But I will say
That is evidence of handiness.
one but one time we came home and one had fallen out of the wall. And books and everything on the floor, which would have been quite dangerous had we been here.
You know,
So
that trips me out. We have this is all creative bliss. Like talking about
yeah,
it's
totally.
related, it's related.
It's
But
true.
we have where we keep our plates in the kitchen. Like what do you call it? Like a cupboard.
Yeah.
I do trip out. Like how does that stay?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's heavy, like the stuff in there. There's
Yeah.
like some, yeah. I try not to think about it too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's one of my fears is things falling off.
So you got to put it into a stud, right? And I think
Okay,
somehow it missed the stud.
I
But
like
anyway, we're
that.
all good now. It's
Yeah.
secure.
All right. We'll slip the word stud in the show notes somewhere for SEO needs. So thank you. Okay. So before we wrap up, I'm just asking because I'm just so intrigued. I'm just like I said, a slightly tinge of green, just hearing about your lifestyle. It's just so dreamy and what you're up to. It all sounds fun. And you do have your plate full with, I can only imagine, planning a retreat and executing it. But what else do you have planned in the future other than, of course, this Paris trip that me and my daughter are going to see in 2020? Not totally out of the question. I was going to put a heart around that. Yeah, so where do you see yourself with your tranquility diving into next?
Yeah. Well, I'd say the new thing for me that I'm super excited about is the TDJ, Tranquility du Jour, soiree that I'm going to host here in DC
Oh,
June
nice.
9th. And it's the first time I've done something like this, like a all-day big event where we're going to have a Tranquility pop-up, which is the clothing line, a little
Nice.
fashion show. Like I'll teach 5 modules. We'll have this beautiful kind of vegan lunch, kale tips, king juice, so that's something that is like new for me. I mean, I do a lot of workshops and retreats, but it'll be like a week-long retreat or, a 3-hour workshop. And so to do this day-long event at this like super swanky, beautiful setting is new, and I'm really, really excited about that. And so maybe there will be more of those.
Oh,
Another thing,
nice.
yeah, I'm so excited. Another thing that I have added is whenever I was over in Paris in July of last year, leading a retreat, pending in Paris, so it's like a writing retreat. We did a literary tour, and we were taken around, and we went to, of course, Gertrude Stein's place, not inside, but under it. And, she used to hold these salons, right, where people would come, Hemingway, Picasso, and they would talk and share art and drink. And so I came up with this idea of tranquility salons. So I've been hosting those in my office, which is a really sweet space in DC. And so that's been nice, where women will come in for about an hour and a half for 4 weeks, and we go through creativity. You see that there's a theme, self-care, dreams, and mindfulness. And it's just this great space where a small group of women can get together, connect, and share ideas and support. And there's some psychoeducation that I do. Then there's always an activity like art journaling or painting or something along those lines. And so that's been something I would like to continue to grow and expand. It's a really I just love the concept, because we don't really have those gathering spaces like they used to do in the 1920s in Paris.
Oh my God. I love that era too. Yeah, I was just reading, not just reading, but I have read somewhat recently Hemingway. What is it called?
A Moveable Feast.
Moveable Feast, yeah. And I was just like, that would be an era.
Yes.
That or New York, in that kind of time. Like, yeah, for sure. It's so important, like I was sharing again before we hit record, how it's, I want to be like, oh, I'm so busy right now, but it's pretty full on right now. Like I'm on the costume committee, and I just, I remember coming home, my daughter, she's on the couch. We're trying to get her healthy so she can actually make it to the rehearsal. And I was just like, okay, we did the rehearsal, but now I had this big, like, okay, I got this list of more costume bits we need, and I got to email these parents making sure that their kid has like white panties. It's just like weird, like this huge, like, oh, this person needs this, and I'm like, this isn't tranquility. Like I felt like my soul, like I think again, anticipating talking to you and speaking about your brand, how you are being the entrepreneur of your life, like even just thinking of you, the word tranquility just came, like, just, I'm always kind of, trying to stay in the moment, but anticipating, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of soup with her, and then I get to talk to Kimberly, tranquility. And I was just like, oh, I need it. I could feel that my soul was aching. Like this has been lacking, and almost like, maybe because I'm in the room with a sick kid and I'm a germaphobe, and I'm like, I'm going to be more susceptible to getting ill here. It's just, it's very important to have those reminders to pause and to luxuriate in that. So I'm really just so happy to hear people in Washington have access to this, to you. And I just really hope I can convince you to come out here to glorious Nelson, BC one day. You guys still have your,
my camper.
Your camper. Because I remember you were in my neck of the woods, and just kicking myself, I didn't trek out to my hometown to go see you when you were out in Calgary. Yeah, you were in Cochrane, was it? Does that sound familiar? Cochrane?
Maybe.
Yeah, because it was close to where we got married. And
like, so beautiful. Yeah. Oh, you were there in spirit.
Yes, I was, definitely. So I would be totally supportive if you want to make your way out this way and offer a tranquility little retreat. Otherwise, I'm going to do one of your other retreats. I swear, they really talk to my tranquility seeking soul. And how about for those in the audience who would like to get to learn a little bit more about what you're up to more recently? And I think you mentioned you might have a little gift for those listening in.
Yes. Yeah. And one thing, Kathy, too, I just want to say about
For sure.
tranquility,
Yes, please.
because I think sometimes people think, oh, tranquility, like life must be so easy, or, oh, it must be nice to be tranquil all the time. And, I remember even when I had the yoga studio, oh, it must be nice to just like, do yoga all the time. You're like, that is not what you do when you run a yoga studio.
Yes.
And so, the thing about it, like, I think the definition of tranquility is something like the quality of calm, right?
Mm.
But I say it's, for me, the definition is the quality of calm within a full and meaningful life, right? So
Oh,
it's not like, oh, everything's so smooth and easy and I never get upset and I just drink tea and do yoga. Sort of recognize that in between the chaos of like a sick kid,
mhm.
costumes, white panties, it's just like, how do I just take a moment here and there and just pause, or
Yeah.
feel my hips in the chair, or feel the cup of tea, or be really present with the person in front of me? It's just these little sweet moments. It's not so much about life is just always smooth.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
just wanted to mention that, right?
Thank
Because I
you.
think sometimes we're like, oh, that just, if only, but I don't have
Yeah.
time for that. And it's
Yeah, it's
like,
not possible right now, but one day. Yeah.
right, right. And yet it is, because that one day is never going to come. So
No.
it's like, how do we do it now among the chaos? Because that's where it gets real.
There you go. That alone in itself was a beautiful gift to the listeners. So thank you.
Of course. And yes,
Yes.
so the gift,
Yeah, but then there's also a gift
that
gift.
there's also gift. So people who buy Year of Tranquility, they get this beautiful 25-page bonus kind of PDF that has some different downloadables from the book, the quotes that I just gave you about what I think tranquility is, things along those lines, some recipes. So I would love to offer that up to your listeners.
Aw,
So
Kimberly.
I will, make sure that you get that, and we can put the link in the show notes to share.
Exactly. We'll have those in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And you can find those over at blissbeyondnaptime.com, the show notes. And do you want to share a link or where people can find you if they're just listening to the show?
Yeah, totally. I'm at kimberlywilson.com, super duper easy. And if you sign up for Love Notes, which is, gosh, I send them out weekly or every other week, and it's just like a little dose of love to your inbox. It also gives you access to these what I call tranquil treasures on the website, which is like MP3s, PDFs, videos, all sorts of different ways to find tranquility in the everyday. So that's one other fun thing. And of course, I'm on Instagram at Tranquility du Jour. I love me some Graham. It's always fun to post there.
I know. I'm trying to gram it up a bit more. But I
Try to
do love
Graham it.
it. So I will definitely follow you. If I don't, I'm sure I do already. But thank you, Kimberly. This was so delightful. My face hurts from smiling so much. It's always a treat to get to see you this way or in person. That was really fun to bump into you at World Domination
Yes.
Summit a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait till we get to hug again. So hopefully
Yes.
not sooner than later.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, honey. Thanks for coming on the show. And yes, we will have the link to the gifts over at the show notes, blissbeyondnaptime.com. Thanks, Kimberly.
Thanks for having me.
Oh.